So, good morning. Welcome to Unity of Chautauqua. I'm Reverend Barbara Williams, and it is great to have you with us this morning. Some of you may be joining us later by watching our YouTube videos, but know that there is no distance in spirit. So, wherever you are, if you would just join us as Janine leads us in our welcome song.
We come together in this moment. We bind our hearts and minds, for we all form a tapestry woven from one life, one creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord. We come together in this moment. We bind our hearts and minds, for we all form a tapestry woven from one life, one creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord.
So let's begin with prayer. And I found this wonderful book, and I'd like to read a prayer. And it's called Speaking with Spirit 52 Prayers to Guide and Inspire You. And I'm just showing you here. So this just was a beautiful morning prayer. So deep breath. And as we settle into this morning, we call upon the beloved within us, around us, living throughout the universe. And our prayer today is that this is a brand new day. Because I am breathing, I am alive, and I can tap into endless possibilities. How grand is that? Just like the weather is never the same, things in nature are always changing, and everything is moving in the universe. I welcome this brand new day, and I ask that I may look at this day with brand new eyes, not assuming it will be like yesterday. Revive my enthusiasm and let that spill over into everything I do without taking for granted the little miracles of life or forgetting to be grateful for every little thing, most of all for the gift of my life. Help me make this day a brand new day, no matter the circumstances of my life. Let me find the newness in myself and break down the walls that I have built between me, my heart, and others. Help me to trust that I am one breath away from knowing that the conditions of my life can be transformed with the power of the Spirit to experience more grace, more ease, more loving, and yet, yes, more joy. I dare to let my heart soften, and open to love. And so it is. Amen and amen. And so you have joined us in the 5 invitations. We have been doing that since November, the first Sunday of every month. We have invited ourselves into discovering what death can teach us about living fully. And if this is the first time you're joining us, you can go back and see us on YouTube or Facebook. We've posted those videos, those once a month. And you can sign up at our website. You see it there. It's unitychq.org. And that allows you not only to sign up for our emails and know what's coming up, but it will also let you see that coming this summer, one of the missions of Unity at Chautauqua was to bring ministers, Unity ministers from all over to spend we have 10 Sundays throughout the summer, and we have workshops on Wednesday nights, and we'll be posting those as well. So we hope that you will connect with us as we continue the 5 invitations, and we go forward into the summer. And so these are the invitations, and they're a challenge. So several of you have shared with me that you've been reading the book and how deep the process is in this book, the invitation. So we've done Don't Wait. And last month we did, which is a really, I think I've been working on this my whole life, is Welcome Everything, Push Away Nothing. And today we're going to do Bring Your Whole Self to the Experience. And then finally, the first of next month, we'll find a place to rest in the middle of the things, and we'll continue to cultivate that beginner's mind. So now I'm going to invite Janine to lead us this Sunday into our experience of bringing our whole self to the experience.
This is a song called Perfect Work of Art. The sculptor Michelangelo was asked how he got in the flow, made the lovely David from a giant block of stone. He said, well, he was in there waiting, my job was simply excavating. I just took away what did not belong. I know somewhere not so deep inside of me lives that perfect soul that I was meant to be. Let me be the way I was created. Let me find pure and simple heart, chip away all jealousy and hatred, and reveal God's perfect work of art. Well, I think we're born on angels' wings. Heaven sends such graceful things, like love without condition, knowing we are not alone. Then descends the soul's dark night, shadows come and block the light, and as the years go by, we turn to stone. My block of stone is made of fear and doubt, but the real me is crying to come out. we find a pure and simple heart. I'll chip away all jealousy and hatred and reveal God's perfect work of art. And reveal God's perfect work of art.
Oh, take a breath of that. It's thinking of the song when Janine and I were connecting over it. It brought back this idea that when I was 25, if anybody asked me what my life was like, I would say, I've lost me. An interesting thing happened or culminated at 25, and that was both my marriage, my health, and my career weren't doing very well. And at that time, I was just miserable pretty much all the time. And there was some chipping away because I could look back and there was joy in my childhood. Not all of it, but there were parts, and I slowly lost myself. And so this idea of the third invitation, the invitation is to bring into our life our wholeness, into our experience, our wholeness. But our culture actually often encourages us not to be our wholeness. And if you look at what a child really needs, and therapists or psychologists will tell you, there are two absolute things for a child to flourish. And one is they need to feel attached. What that means is they need to feel they belong, that they're safe, that they're taken care of, that they can rely. And the other is that we don't think of, and is the harder one in some ways, and that is they need to feel authentic. And so what that means is they need to know that just as they are, how they show up is just honored and used and help the child develop that. So most of us, especially in my generation, and I see it a little less in the current generation, but I got the thing is it's not okay to be authentic. In fact, in our family, we are quiet, we don't speak, we don't give our opinions, we don't get angry, we don't cry, on and on and on. And so to belong, and a little child has really no choice, as us as little children, to belong and to, we had to follow that, or maybe we rebelled, but still it controlled us. All these shoulds that the thing is about authenticity is it never goes away. That desire in us to live fully from a full expression of ourselves is hiding in that block, like Janine sang in that. And all the layers we had to put on to survive. And that our parents and their grandparents and on and on and on were necessary at the time. And then for me, it's been a 45-year, I've been on this from 25 and feeling miserable. Fortunately, I chose to figure out what was missing. And I remember the first time I went to a workshop in transactional analysis, and maybe some of you remember this a long time, I'm okay, you're okay, and the therapist, and they were doing inner child work. And I went to this workshop thinking, just everything's failing. And I'm looking at these people being playful and fun and doing all this stuff. And I started weeping like I don't belong here. And I ran out. And the therapist, he was also a Presbyterian minister, was so gentle. And he said to me, he looked at me and he said, when you're ready, come back. And I did. And that led me actually not only through years of working with that group on figuring out all these life scripts and slowly working to see how I had the my whole me I was only living from a part of me, and I thought I'd followed everything, right? I'd got the good grades, I'd got the degree, I'd got the childhood sweetheart and married him after college. I mean, I did everything right, and it was all wrong. And so I started undoing all those scripts. Now, the, I I had my daughter about 10 years into this spiritual experience, remarried, and things were going really well. And so I wanted her to have a different experience than I did. I wanted to find out who she is. And I'm just really grateful I could give her maybe a head start. I started at 25. She could start at maybe born, at birth. I could just give her a little more. And so at about 5, she says to me, she's in school and she says, "Mom, I'm quitting school." Deep breath from me. Okay. I thought she had a pretty sweet school. The teachers, it was a loving school. Her brothers were going there too. So it was a place that she could see them. They're her half brothers, so they live part-time somewhere else. And she said, "They're trying to tell me how to think, and I have my own thoughts." I never came to that idea as a kid, and it was just such a teaching experience for me. Is I watched her, and let me just say, she has her own challenges, as we all do, because culture puts on so many of these shoulds. You should look like this, you should do this, and she goes through that and is working through that. But the fact that she looked inside of herself, and that's been our whole journey, is to go inside and figure out who is it that has these thoughts. I just was in awe. I was in awe. And I used the unity principles. Fortunately, I'd been going to unity for a while at this point, and I used meditation, and I held and surrendered her into God's care and love, and we found the school that fit that. And she flourished. She didn't stop making excuses for going to school. And I thought, this school's for me too. This is the school. Unity has been this school for me. So maybe you say that to yourself. We look at ourselves and say, I've got my own thoughts. I've got my own divine essence. And yes, there are all these things coming at me saying, I should, I ought to. And yet we have the tools. And that's part of this. This is the invitation for this month. So I want to read a little from the book, what he says about this. And he says, "We are encouraged to look good, to be seen as capable, strong, intelligent, sensitive, spiritual, or at least well-adjusted. We project a positive self-image. Few of us want to be known for our helplessness, fear, anger, ignorance, or want others to know that sometimes we are more of a mess than we'd like to admit. Yet, more than once, and he's speaking for himself, I have found an undesirable aspect of myself, one in which I had previously felt ashamed and kept tucked away, to be the very quality that allowed me to meet another person's suffering with compassion instead of fear or pity." He's inviting that in our book, The 5 Invitations, into us owning the whole, knowing everything belongs. Everything belongs. That even those things that are messy and culture tells us we're not supposed to show to each other, they actually are begging for an understanding. And under that, as we dig under them, we find messages for our soul. And so then I started thinking about Jesus in this, like, how does Jesus fit into this idea of our whole self into the experience? And remember when I think Lucy might have been, my daughter was in maybe, I don't know, middle school or something. Everybody had the little bracelets. What would Jesus do? And I thought, okay, my view, how I was taught about Jesus is how perfect and wonderful and loving. Well, I started thinking about the scriptures as looking into this whole self. And did he bring his whole self? Well, Jesus got angry at those selling in the temple and turned over the tables in the temple that were selling things to people. And he wept when he saw Martha and Mary having lost Lazarus. He was frustrated. I just like that. He got so frustrated with the apostles sometimes, or actually they were disciples at this point. They weren't apostles yet. And he just said, you guys aren't getting it. You know, he just get upset. He celebrated. He went to meals. Um, but he also went and embraced people that the culture said he shouldn't, right? What else did he do? Oh, he went alone to be alone when others insisted they needed him. He went and took his time to replenish and restore himself. One of the ones I like is he changed his mind. There was a woman who was a Gentile, and when she begged him for healing for her daughter, he said, "Oh, I'm for the Jewish people. My ministry is for the Jewish." And she said, don't even dogs get crumbs from the table. And he all of a sudden woke up and realized, and included people that were non-Jewish in his ministry. He realized that she had opened him up to a bigger understanding of what his mission was. And he directed his compassion as well as his criticism really openly, and rejected the role that so many people thought he was there to perform. He rejected the idea that they thought he was going to replace the Roman Empire and all the way that it mistreated them. He would come back and he would then be the leader of a kingdom on earth. And yet he kept pointing it, and like he said, sometimes his disciples didn't get it, that the kingdom was within. And his job was to chip away, like the song, like Janine sang, that he was chipping away the outer belief that we had, that we weren't part of the beloved, that we weren't part of the divine. And I just love the fact that he saw that in people that other people rejected. He just discarded the outward, okay, this person is labeled this role or this or that. And he went to their essence. And so that's our journey here with bringing our wholeness, is bringing our essence and loving it all and accepting it all and nurturing it all and understanding that all of it is part of the journey, and that we're sharing these same frustrations and upset with lots of people, as well as the joy. So Ram Dass said, don't be a role, R-O-L-E, be a soul, S-O-U-L. Again, from our book. When we over-identify with our role, it defines us, confines us, and reduces our capacity for conscious choice. It sets up an expectation about how life is supposed to proceed. This means more fragmentation, more fixed positions and entrenched beliefs, and less access to our innate wisdom. So it's pretty easy to get into those roles that shut down. And, you know, I was thinking about some of the ways in which right now this going into and figuring out who we are and going in and accepting the whole parts of it, not just an outer, giving up that idea that we have to show up as a role, but as a soul. And it dawned on me that right now in our state, and it happens in some other states, there is this this anti-woke, W-O-K-E thing going on. And I realized that, not wanting to use the word woke, because now it's been given an interesting connotation, which I have a very much different idea of it. But I thought, if I replaced woke with whole, and I realized that this process that we're embracing to become a soul is what our nation's embracing. If think about it, and there's people that are scared of it. And this makes sense. I'm scared to know some of the parts of me that don't show up as nice, that are teary and get angry and get frustrated. Well, our nation has that too. It has some history that is frustrating, that can make us angry, that can, let's just take something like George Washington, right? Or Thomas Jefferson. It's now been I didn't learn this as a kid, but people are learning that they had slaves, that they weren't just the perfect founding fathers. And so there's this movement to want to reject that. And yet, the exciting part of that, I get really excited that people are looking into the history and they're seeing that, we have a messy history. And that's about healing. That's the same ideas as we embrace these parts of us and know that it all belongs. This part of our history belongs too, because it's an invitation to healing. And so maybe we can have compassion with those that are pretty scared about it and are like, because maybe they don't want to see that in their own lives. And I can identify with that. It was so scary starting the path of undoing the little perfect girl that I had been programmed to be, with the right grades and the right this and the right that, and to become messy. And our country's going through that. We just see it in so many places. And I'm learning to become a little more compassionate as I'm more compassionate with my messiness. And I realize, yeah, our country's kind of messy too. And there are people that are really frightened about that and that want to ban books and do this because they're not seeing. And I guess you could take a blame and shame about the history. But I have a feeling that more people that are looking into the history and saying this is what happened are doing it for healing, are begging for healing, not for guilt or things like that. So the invitation then is that to become a soul is not to take our roles quite so seriously, to be lighter with our roles. And so I wrote a few things down. I was thinking about roles and the roles and conditions. It's interesting to try this on. I'm not wealthy. I'm not poor. I'm not healthy. I'm not ill. I'm not old. I'm not young. I'm not a success or a failure. I'm not friendless or popular. I'm not happy or depressed. I'm not smart, stupid, educated, uneducated. I'm not a Democrat or Republican, or may I add, an independent. I'm not an atheist. I'm not religious. I'm not an American. I'm not a Russian. What a relief. Just hold that for a while. I mean, yeah, those roles, they're helpful. I mean, and part of it is our primitive brain wants to put people in little slots so that we can, because there's a lot coming at us, okay? But we can just notice that, wow, I just put a role on this person and I wonder about their soul. And so in Unity, we say that we're first and foremost a spiritual being. And we're here having a human experience, and that human experience can be a little messy and fragile and complex and wonderful. So our author says, when we look through the lens of a role, it narrows our vision of the world. We don't see things and people as they actually are, but we rather project our story onto them. Guilty. This frequently causes us to attribute a particular significance to an experience, and we miss the true meaning that is trying to emerge. You see, perfection isn't trying to emerge. It's that everything is trying to emerge, to integrate all aspects of our being. So, and this got me to thinking about a time when I really felt that I chose, in what might be considered kind of a difficult situation, to be a soul rather than a role. And I was at a Unity conference in the 1980s, a long time ago, and it's way across the state, 4 hours away. So I got there just in time for the 7 o'clock presentation, and then it went the whole weekend. And so I had not eaten at 9 when it let out. So I went to find a restaurant by myself and check into my hotel. And I couldn't find a space in the front of the restaurant. So I went behind where it was all dark. And when I got out of my car, a man, I got literally opened the door, stood up, and there's a man within inches of me standing and saying, I need money. And this point, my heart was so open. We've been singing Unity songs. We had been embracing, this whole conference was a prayer and holding a consciousness for ourselves in the world. And so I was just like singing to myself, and I see him in this energy. And for some reason, in that moment, I brought my soul to that experience. Now here I am within inches, and he's saying, I have a family in the car. We haven't eaten. And I bring out my wallet. Now, back in those days, you paid cash for everything. So I probably had $200 for that weekend in cash. I brought out a 20 and I handed to him, and I blessed him. And as he walked away and I walked into the restaurant, I said, may this $20 change his life. I don't know where it's going or what it's going to be. Later, I thought about it, and I thought, well, you were a silly, dumb chicken there. You should have been afraid, and all the roles we've been told, the way life works. And maybe it works different. Maybe it works different when we stop defining people as dangerous, this, that. I'm not saying not to be careful or to use, because there is something as much as discernment. But it's funny that my discernment, because my soul was so open at that point, my discernment was, I'm safe. And so that moment became a gift. Instead of a memory I could tell, oh my gosh, this was terrible. It became a gift where I felt so connected to wherever this man was going. So in the book, he says that if we want to bring our whole selves into our experience, the one thing we have to do is tame the inner critic. Ouch. Okay. So, and because we've been taught to put on this role, often it pushes us to want to be perfect, right? Because we want to follow all the rules, because ultimately there's that little kid inside that still wants to be connected and wants people to love us. One of the most important things that all of us at every level, even the people that are screaming and mad, there's part of them that wants to belong and know they're valued and connected. And so perfection requires, to follow this role instead of our souls, requires that we have an inner critic. And it is an unconscious, often corrosive voice that steals our power and makes negative self-talk the norm. And not only that, my critic was pretty strong, and chances are, and if this is hard to admit, but I'm sure that the stronger my critic was on me, the stronger it was on everyone around me. That's what's happened. You can see that now in our world. You can see people being so critical of each other in the news, um, calling for a healing, calling for a healing from that inner critic. As my husband once said about me, he said, just pointing out that I had a really strong inner critic. Of course, I only directed at certain people, he said. I just directed at people that are judging. He said, I judge the people who judge. I judge the people who are prejudiced. But he said, isn't that the same? And think about it, it adds to the violence of their version of the world. When I'm judging them, they pick it up, they pick our energy up, they know that I am holding part of myself apart from them because of what they believe. And it's, there's no chance of healing in that when we play that game. So it takes courage to be that soul and to slowly chip away at all the layers of the stone we've created around ourselves, and to give up that false self, the opinionated head, our closed heart, our body that has armored itself. And in fact, if we're trying to figure it out, like, how can I tell that I have an inner critic? Because it's so automatic, I don't even know when I've got it. Well, your body will tell you. Our body responds to our environment and some to our genetics, but it also really it reacts to the inner critic. And so it braces itself, right? It gets really hard and tough. And we can talk to that. We can know that and look, if we're willing to look and say, question might be, wow, right now am I suffering? And maybe my body's in on this possibility and is letting me, because it loves me, because it's saying, look, 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 look. What are you doing? What are you doing? So how do we know we're kind of embodying this inner critic? And there are three things possible. There's more than this, but I'll just give you a sample that might kind of, when I'm judging, that's the big one. It's something, someone else is wrong or I'm wrong. But often it's easier to see that I'm judging other people, to notice when that I would criticize myself if I were doing it. And because I've been criticizing and hard on myself, God, judging feels kind of good, because it says, gee, you know, at least I'm better than them. I may be hard on myself, but they're worse. So that's one of the things. The other is comparing, right? And that is not only fruitless, and believe me, as a minister, it was interesting. When I was first in my Unity Ministers group, people would say, how many people? Sometimes they'd announce, well, I had this many people come to my church on Sunday. Well, I had this many. And I felt, especially as a new minister, well, gee, I don't know. I'm having this problem right now in my ministry. And there were times I did, and I can't brag about it. And what was interesting is our group also embraced that. And I learned that I could talk about what was hurting as well as what I was joyful. And the consciousness in the ministers group is so amazing, because they applaud when people are saying, you know, we just started a youth program and it's growing and I'm so excited and we're coming out of COVID. And the next person that says, I have this person in my congregation that's trying to get me fired, and they're doing this and this, and the people are surrounding that person with just as much love and understanding. And that's kind of what I want to bring out in the world too. And there's lots of opportunity right now, especially around the world too, but in our country, in politics and religion and all sorts of things. So comparing, we will never, we're always comparing our insides to other people's outsides and what's showing up on the outside. And hey, they've got the perfection thing going on too, right? So they're letting us only see a part of themselves. But maybe there's a part of us when we sit in a soul rather than a role, and that is more curious and more willing to go deeper, that can embrace more of them. So, and the final thing is fixing. So not only wanting to fix myself rather than reveal, and I would, use that word every time you feel like you ought to fix something, that it's wrong. I would use the fact that something is asking to be revealed. And there was another part of fixing I found really interesting, is that sometimes we're fixing things on other people because it makes us feel more comfortable. So both those fixes, fixing ourselves and fixing others. So any of those, whether it's judging or we're comparing or we're fixing, are indication that maybe we're being in an opportunity to tame our inner critic. And so this is what he suggests in the book. We generally feel that we have two options with difficult emotions. We can repress or express. And you know that repressing it isn't very healthy because that shows up in our body and illness and all sorts of things. But expressing it sometimes is, when it's anger, is not discernment, is it? It's just that primitive, furious anger. And so here's what he says. There's a third option. Contain the emotion. And this is what he says that means. There is a more balanced and creative response. We hold the emotion and the related material about it in a caring way. We soften. We accept the reality of their presence, regardless of whether we like them or not. He's talking about our emotions. And Tara Brach would say, when we get those emotions, this belongs. She said that's her affirmation. I'm angry, this belongs. I'm sad, this belongs. I'm joyful, this belongs. I'm human as well as spiritual, and I belong. So, with the reality of their presence, regardless of we like them or not, we bring them forward with respectful interest. We are curious about our experience. Maybe we explore the tightness in our chest, or the sense of a heavy weight of our arms, or the feeling of longing without attaching any of it to a story. Reminding ourselves to instead gently hold to calmness, apparently hold in calmness, I said that wrong, in calmness, apparently differing experiences and perspectives. He goes on to say, true acceptance begins a transformative process by mindfully embracing our flaws, shortcomings, and all those rejected, painful, and scary aspects of ourselves. Even the seemingly unlovable pieces are loved because they're part of the whole. So now I would like to move us into a time of meditation where we embrace that wholeness, and knowing that our embracing of this wholeness, our compassion, our holding it softly, as he said, this is going to move out into the world. And our compassion will start becoming the healing, not only of ourselves and returning to our soul and bringing the wholeness into our delightful experiences. Life will become more joyful and sad at times, but full of being embraced, that we belong, this belongs. And by the way, other people belong. And we will begin to remember, as Jesus reminded us, that we are the beloved. So let's take that into meditation.
are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
Let's just take a deep breath into this moment. And just noticing, as Janine sang, what were some of the thoughts that you had about being the face of God? You know, we think sometimes that it's just what we portray out to others, but I'd like you to take a moment now and think of someone that you have experienced an unconditional love, that they've looked at you and seen the face of God. And it could even be someone that you don't know, but that holds a consciousness on this earth, that you know if you walked into their presence, they would see you. They would see your soul. Just like Jesus saw. He saw beyond the outer descriptions and into the soul, and people followed him and opened their consciousness to wholeness. And so this person that sees you, allow these words to be their words. You are the face of God. Take a breath. Can you let that in? And now put your hand perhaps on your heart and see them putting their hand on their heart. And then again, them looking at you, at the whole you, and saying, I hold you in my heart. Breathe that in. Just notice if you're resisting that. And if so, just maybe be willing to allow it a bit. Allow this truth to move into your heart space. And then they say to you, you are a part of me. You are a part. Just notice around your heart space how that feels. I see you, you're a part. And now the invitation is to bring someone to mind that maybe you don't feel so connected, not somebody that you have real deep issues, but somebody that maybe has a different belief system or something, and you know when you see them, they're just, you've cut them out a bit of connecting from your wholeness. You maybe have a protective layer with them. So look at them with this curiosity, with this openness of knowing they too maybe have a lot of roles that they've put on the outside, a lot of protection. And you're open to seeing beyond that. And you say to them, looking in their eyes, you are the face of God. Feel what that is, to give that energy over to them. You're the face of God. And then I hold you in my heart. Again, feel that. As you send that energy to them in those words. They don't have to soften with it. They might not be ready, that's okay. No need to fix them. We just embrace that this is who we are. We are people that look beyond the role and go to the soul. And so we say, you are a part of me. You are a part of me. And now let's just open and embrace the whole world. Just imagine right now that the world is spinning in front of you. And know that there are all these people around the world that are holding this space of a deeper knowing. We're not alone in this. As Jesus said, where two or more are gathered, there I am. There is the Christ. And so that Christ, in whatever it's called around the world, there are those right now in prayer and meditation holding that with us. And so we say together, we are the face of God, holding our world. We are the face of God. We hold all creation in our hearts. And breathe that in. What does that feel like, joining with a web of light that surrounds the earth? We are a part of each other. And each day we are remembering that truth. And so it is. Amen and amen.
Hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
Thank you, Janine. That was wonderful. And I just want to read a little poem he has about that. It's so if you're in the book and you have the book and some of you have been reading along, thinking of another person and this compassion we have once we're so compassionate for our own self and our whole, bringing our whole selves, we start looking at others and we say this: This person has a body, heart, and mind just like me. This person worries and gets frightened just like me. This person is trying their best to navigate life just like me. This person is a fellow human being just like me. And so we hold some benevolent well-being to arise in their lives by saying, may this person have strength and support to face the difficulties in life. May this person be free from suffering and its causes. May this person be peaceful and happy. May this person be loved just like me. So thank you for spending your time. And now it's our time to bless the nature of our generosity. And just hold it here for a minute. And just invite you to put your hands forward and just feel the generosity of love that flows in and through us and the universe. And we just want to bless all the love and support that we receive from so many places. And I want to bless that we receive at Unity that allows us to bring ministers in this coming summer. And so would you say this with me? Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am grateful. Just hold that. I am grateful.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And so you see that picture with the blessed, and I found that, and I've been doing that. And so you might just an invitation. Let's just take that word. I'm so blessed. And if you'd like to, you can put your arms up and just in a receiving, we just receive the blessings so that we may move them forward through our lives, through our family, through the universe. And we are blessed. And so with that, we say our unity prayer for protection. And as always, I have our earth. So here it is. And this I got from Reverend Jessie up in Maine a long time ago. And she used to pass it around, and I passed it around in my congregation. And this summer, I'm going to remember to bring it to Chautauqua. Help me, I've got to put it next to my Chautauqua things because I want to pass it around so that when we say this together, we know that we're, just as in our meditation, we're holding for the earth. So together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And we say thank you. Thank you, God. And thank you for being here with us.